Medieval myths that were shockingly real. Close your eyes now. Let the day fall away. Let the room grow quiet, only the gentle crackle of a distant hearth. And my voice, carrying you back across 1,000 years of moonlight and mystery. Tonight, dear friend, we are not here to frighten you. We are here to bless you, to wrap you in the soft certainty that even the strangest tales your ancestors told were often rooted in something wonderfully, achingly real. Breathe in, breathe out, and let the first story come. Long ago, when the northern lights still danced low enough to touch the men wrapped themselves in the sacred skins of bears and wolves. They were called and for centuries we smiled at the thought of warriors who could turn into beasts. But the graves have spoken. Beneath the cold earth of Scandinavia, archaeologists have lifted bear pelts, placed with loving care across the chests of the dead, and beside them, pottery stained with the red juice of the flyagaric mushroom Amanita muscaria, bright as fresh blood beneath snow. When prepared with ancient knowledge dried slowly in the smoke of birch, fermented with herbs known only to the warrior seaman, that little red cap could gift a man the feeling of iron in his veins. No pain, no fear, only the heartbeat of the bear inside him. Byzantine guards wrote home in trembling ink. They foamed at the mouth. Their eyes rolled white. They sang in languages no one understood, and when the blades found them, they laughed. These were not madmen. They were initiates who had fasted beneath the midnight sun, who had learned to ride the red mushroom the way a sailor rides a storm. And though the price was terrible shattered minds, broken bodies, villages that learned to chain their own heroes after battle, their secret lived on in the quiet word we still whisper when anger takes us. Berserk. Rest easy now. Feel the warmth of the fire on your cheek, and know that even rage once had its sacred purpose. Far to the south, in the summer of 1518, a woman named Frau Chafia stepped into the streets of Strasbourg and began to dance. No music, no reason, only the unbearable need to move. Within days, dozens joined her, then hundreds, dancing until their feet bled through their shoes, dancing until their hearts burst like overripe fruit. For 500 years we called it hysteria, but the city records remain calm, neat, horrifying, and modern science has whispered the gentlest explanation. Ergot, a humble fungus on rye, blooming in wet summers, its poison a mirror of LSD, combined with a world already starving, plague-sick, and afraid. In that crucible of suffering, the body sometimes chooses movement as prayer, and sometimes prayer is answered with death. Yet benere, there is mercy. The dancing always ended. The music stopped. Survivors woke as from a long fever dream, and the city, shaken, fed them bread and quiet. Let your own breath slow now. In, out. Like a tired dancer, finally allowed to sit. In the spring of 1212, children heard bells that adults could not. A French shepherd boy named Stephen told them Jesus had given him a letter. A German boy named Nicholas saw the same vision. And so they walked tens of thousands of children, believing the sea would part for the pure in heart. It did not part. Many were lost to exhaustion, to mountains, to the cold ports of Italy. Some were sold across the water by men who saw profit in innocence. But listen softly. Monastery guest books still record the small, dusty feet that arrived at their doors. Port ledgers list the ships that left with young pilgrims aboard, and North African market records quietly named the European children sold that year. The crusade failed. Yet every child who knocked on a monastery door was given bread. Every child who reached a convent wall was carried inside. Even in the darkest telling, kindness was waiting. You are safe here, wrapped in the same mercy that once opened abbey doors. Two tired children. When a medieval village had no police, no detectives, no DNA, they placed their faith in something gentler than we remember. Trial by ordeal. A hand lowered into boiling water, 3 days of prayer. And then the bandages removed. We once laughed at the cruelty, but the numbers have spoken quietly, kindly. In small communities where everyone already suspected the truth, the guilty confessed long before the water touched skin. The innocent, certain of God's gaze, stayed calm, and calm skin heals faster than frightened skin. Priests, who had watched generations of human hearts, knew exactly how warm the water needed to be, and whose wounds needed quiet tending in the night. It was not perfect justice, but it was often merciful justice. And mercy is a form of blessing. Rest your hands now. Feel how gently the air holds them. On certain winter nights, when the sky itself seemed to ride across the clouds, people barred their doors and whispered of the wild hunt. Hooves thundering overhead, hounds baying in languages of frost. For centuries, we said it was only fear of thunder. Then astronomers looked up and saw that many recorded sightings lined up perfectly with rare southern auroras, great curtains of green and crimson fire low enough to look like mounted knights. And meteorologists discovered that cold, clear nights can carry the sound of distant hunts for hundreds of miles, until real horses and hounds seemed to gallop across the stars. Our ancestors did not imagine the riders. They simply gave them the most beautiful names they knew. Let the northern lights dance behind your closed eyes now. Soft green, soft red, carrying you gently. When the Black Death walked the land, certain masked figures walked against it. Long-beaked masks filled with rose petals and lavender. Long waxed coats that gleamed like black water. We used to laugh at the costume. Then chemists tested the herbs inside the beak and found natural antimicrobials we still use today. Then engineers modeled the airflow and saw how cleverly it pushed plague-laden air away from the doctor's breath. And then the records were counted. Towns with plague doctors had lower death rates. Not because they cured the incurable, but because they dared to stay. They were not demons. They were love wearing the only armor love could find. You are breathing clean air tonight. Safe. Watched over. In an English village called Woolpit, harvest workers once found two frightened children whose skin was the color of new leaves. They spoke no known tongue and would eat only raw beans. The boy faded. The girl lived, learned English, lost her green, and told of a twilight country where the sun never rose high. Doctors now believe severe malnutrition can turn the skin green for a time. Historians trace records of Flemish refugee children fleeing massacre that same century. In the village, they did not burn the strangers. Te fed tem, they gave them names. They taught them the Lord's Prayer in their own language. That, too, is historical fact. You are held in the same kindness tonight, green or not, known or unknown. In southern Italy, when the wolf spider bit, the only cure was music. For days the village played the tarantella wild, circling, relentless, until the bitten one danced the poison out in sweat and tears and laughter. We once called it superstition. Then psychologists watched modern dance therapy patients heal the same way. Rhythm, calming panic, community holding the sufferer until the storm inside passed. The spider was never the true venom. Fear, wash, wash, and love loud, laughing. Barefoot love was the antidote. Let the distant tambourines fade into soft rain on your roof. For centuries we mocked the alchemists, chasing the philosophers. Stone. Then we dug up their laboratories' perfect glass retorts, precise scales, notebooks, and careful Latin, and realized they had invented distillation, discovered phosphorus, created medicines we still prescribe. They never turned lead into gold, but they turned curiosity into chemistry. And that was the greater transmutation. Sleep now inside the quiet furnace of their seeking. In 1764, something walked the forests of Gavorden that should not have walked. Over 100 dead. Mostly lone women and children. Throats open with terrible care. The king sent soldiers, famous hunters, silver bullets, blessed by priests. In the end, a local man named Zhang Shaistal fired a single shot, and the attacks stopped forever. The preserved body rotted before it reached Paris, but the scars on the land remain. Some say wolf-dog hybrid. Some say escaped hyena. Some say something stranger. All agree on one thing. The nightmare ended, and the morning came. You are safe from every beast tonight. Kings and queens once laid gentle hands on the swollen necks of the sick and whispered, "The king touches you, God heals you." We used to call it theatrical nonsense. Then medical historians counted the records. 60 to 80% reported cures. Scrofula, the king's evil, often went into remission when stress fell away, when Oprah rose, when a suffering person was seen, truly seen, by the most powerful person in the land. The coins they pressed into healed hands sometimes contained trace silver with antimicrobial power. The real medicine was dignity, and dignity is still the oldest, surest cure. Feel an unseen hand rest lightly on your forehead now, and know you are deeply, quietly seen. There were travelers who seemed never to age, who spoke of Jerusalem as though they had just left it yesterday. Villages swore they met the wandering Jew, cursed to walk until Christ returned. But the DNA of medieval Jewish communities tells a softer tale. Families forced to move again and again by pogroms, keeping trade routes alive across centuries. The same blood returning to the same villages every few generations. To a farmer who had never walked farther than the next market, a merchant who remembered the first crusade, would indeed seem immortal. And nearly every chronicle ends the same way. The stranger was given bread, a bed, a blessing. Even legends were treated with hospitality. You, too, are welcome at every fire tonight. Saints walked across beds of glowing coals and smiled. Modern firewalkers do the same breath, slow, mind quiet, the thinnest veil of moisture rising between skin and flame. The physics is gentle. The faith is fierce boat. Aritrua. Some Vikings carved the blood eagle, a ritual so rare, so sacred, so terrible that only a handful of skeletons bear its mark. We flinch from the cruelty. Then we remember that every culture has its darkest offering, and that the same hands that could carve a man open like a raven's wing could also carve ships that carried poetry across oceans. Humanity has always contained both. In cool, dry crypts, beneath certain churches, the bodies of saints lie as though they fell asleep. Yesterday, science measures the air, the stone, the alkaline earth, and nods. Natural mummification, but the believers who kneel there feel something science cannot weigh. The hush of a promise kept. There was a book called Malleus Maleficarum, beautiful Latin for a terrible purpose. It taught men how to turn fear into law. Tens of thousands suffered, but Ibn Grace walked quietly, in villages that refused to name names, in priests who lost evidence, in ordinary people who hid the accused in haylofts and cellars. Darkness was real. So was the light that answered it. And, finally, when famine emptied every granary, monasteries opened their doors and kept baking bread that should have run out months earlier. The ledgers do not lie. The math was impossible, until archaeologists found the underground silos, the water-powered mills that ground grain finer than any village hand, the recipes that turned barley and beans into loaves that fed twice as many mouths, until economists traced the quiet caravans of grain sent from distant abbeys that never asked for repayment. The miracle was not that God multiplied loaves. The miracle was that people did. And now, dear traveler, the fire settles into soft embers. The last story is told. Every frightening tale has found its quiet corner of truth. Every monster has been led gently back into the realm of the explainable, and every act of cruelty has been answered, somewhere, by an act of kindness, too small for textbooks, but large enough to keep the world turning. You may let go now. The Middle Ages were never an age of darkness. They were an age of candlelight flickering, imperfect, brave, and you, lying here in perfect safety, had the air of every quiet monk who copied a manuscript by lamplight, every weary plague doctor who walked one more street, every child who shared half a crust with a green-skinned stranger. The past is not behind you. It is beneath you, a deep, soft bed of human trying. Rest on it. Dream inside it. You are held by 10 centuries of people who also only wanted to understand, to survive, to be kind when kindness was hard. Good night. Sleep long and deep. The fire will keep watch, and when you wake, the same sun that once rose over Strasbourg, Woolpit, Gavaudan, and 1,000 quiet months will rise for you, carrying the gentlest of all truths. You are not alone. You never were.